In the ruins of a forgotten empire, buried deep beneath the bloodline cities, a boy falls into a secret that should never have survived. This is not a tale of heroes. It's a story of control, memory, and rebellion. A lab once hidden, a core once silent, and a choice that shattered everything the world believed was perfect. Welcome to the Forgotten Core. It wasn't natural. Not the way the light cracked through the clouds like shattered glass, or the way the birds had gone silent hours ago. Kyle Vire didn't care. The only thing on his mind was survival. His boots pounded against the crumbling cobblestones as the warning bell screamed behind him. The guards weren't far. He could hear their plated feet and snarling voices echoing through the alleyways of the outer slums. He ducked beneath a rusted pipe, cut through a courtyard overgrown with thorns, and didn't stop until his lungs burned like fire. He'd stolen the wrong thing this time. Wrapped tight in a stained cloth at his side was a scroll, old, brittle, and sealed with a mark he didn't recognize. All he knew was that men with swords had started chasing him the second he took it. Kyle stumbled into an abandoned building, its roof half collapsed and windows broken like jagged teeth. Dust curled around him in the dim light, and for a moment, all was still, until the ground caved in beneath him. With a sudden, sickening snap, the floor gave way, and Kyle dropped, down into darkness, through layers of rotting wood and stone, until he hit the earth with a bone-jarring thud. He groaned, rolling over, pain shooting through his ribs. But the moment he sat up, the ache faded, because he was no longer in the slums. The tunnel stretched before him like a forgotten vein, metal walls scorched with time, flickering lines glowing faintly along the ground. It was cold. Too cold. The kind of cold that whispered, "You don't belong here." Kyle reached for the scroll. It pulsed. Once, like a heartbeat. He stared. Then the tunnel lights flickered, and lit up, one by one. Boom. 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 Leading him forward, deeper into the earth. He should have run. He didn't. Not because he wanted to, but because something pulled at him. Not physically, but deeper. In the bones. Like gravity, only stranger. The tunnel's glow hummed beneath his feet, a slow, steady pulse. Blue-white veins of energy running like rivers beneath cracked metal panels. It was old, so old, and yet still alive. The scroll at his side pulsed again, matching the rhythm of the ground. He didn't like it, but he also couldn't stop. After what felt like hours, but could have been minutes, he reached it. A wall, seamless, solid, towering from floor to ceiling with no hinges, no handle, no keyhole. Just smooth black metal embedded with thousands of tiny silver threads that looked almost like veins. Kyle stepped closer. The scroll buzzed in his hand. Then, without warning, a symbol lit up in the center of the wall. An unfamiliar rune. 3 curved lines, a drop, a crescent. Kyle didn't know what it meant, but someone else did. Far above the tunnels in the high citadel of the Empire, Era Solon jolted awake from a vision that left her gasping. Her skin was cold, her heart thundered. She saw him again, the boy in the dark. The core was stirring. It had seen him. And now, so had she. Era rose from her bed, crossed her room, and opened a hidden panel behind her bookshelf. Dozens of scrolls and relics lay inside, stolen from the palace archives over the years. She reached for one, the same symbol burned into its cover as the one now glowing underground. "He found it," she whispered. Then louder, "He found the door." Back in the lab, Kyle reached out. The moment his fingers brushed the glowing symbol, the wall melted. Not like fire, like thought. The metal unraveled into glowing strands, curling away like petals folding back. A whisper slid through the air. "Welcome, bearer of blood code." Kyle's breath caught. His body refused to move. The door vanished, revealing a massive chamber beyond, dark, echoing, with machines taller than trees, and a single orb of blinding light floating in the center, pulsing like a heartbeat. And beneath it, something moved. Whatever stirred beneath the glowing orb wasn't fully visible, just the outline of movement, the echo of something huge shifting slowly in the dark. Not an animal, not a machine, something in between. The walls of the chamber curved like the inside of a sphere, etched with strange writing that shifted when he looked too long. Blue light ran through the runes like liquid, pulsing in time with the orb. It wasn't just decoration. It was alive. Kale took a step inside. The moment his foot crossed the threshold, the orb dimmed, and the machinery around the room exhaled. Pipes hissed. Gears turned. Steam hissed from vents that hadn't breathed in centuries. Then came the voice. Blood recognized. Access. Level 1. Archive awakening. Kale spun, searching. It came from everywhere, and nowhere. The scroll at his side began to glow, unraveling in his hand. Symbols rearranged. Letters he couldn't read formed a spiral, then vanished, burned into the air before his eyes. He didn't understand. But the lab did. And the lab had just accepted him. Suddenly, metal arms extended from the walls. Not threatening, almost ceremonial. One of them held a needle, the tip glowing with that same soft blue light. It hovered in front of him, silent. Blood code required. Consent optional. Kale backed away. "I don't even know what you are," he hissed. But the machine didn't care. The needle darted forward, fast, fluid, and pierced his palm with a flash of pain. He yelped and staggered, blood dripping into the air. But the droplet never hit the floor. It floated, suspended, glowing now with the same eerie light as the lab. The orb brightened. Machinery began to whir. Walls peeled open to reveal chambers filled with strange relics. Floating armor, preserved limbs, what looked like an artificial heart encased in glass, still beating. Kale clutched his hand, staring. What was this place? Above ground, in the citadel, Aera was already on the move. She moved through secret passageways, deeper into the palace than even her tutors knew existed. Every vision she'd ever had, every coded whisper in her dreams had led to this moment. She had to find him, because if Kale had the blood, then he wasn't just anyone. He was part of the project, and he had just awakened the last living secret of the ancient world. Kale stepped back as the blood suspended in air twisted like smoke, drawn toward it. The closer it drifted, the brighter the orb burned, until it wasn't just glowing anymore. It was singing. A deep hum, not quite a sound, not quite a thought. It pressed into Kale's skull, into the walls, into the bones of the chamber. The machines on the outer edges began to react. Lights flickered to life. Old turbines coughed awake, and from behind a great veil of silver mesh, a shape began to form. Not flesh, not bone. It was the core, a sphere smooth and dark, floating above a pool of rippling black liquid. Wires extended from it like roots, plugging into the walls, the floor, the air itself. The thing had no face, no voice, yet Kale felt it speak. "Finally, you return," Kale staggered. "No!" he whispered. "I don't know you." "But I know you." The orb's light shifted. A projection unfurled around him. Flashes of a time long gone. A city in the sky. Humans and machines living as one. Towering spires powered by magic drawn from beneath the earth. Then, flames. Screams. A war not written in any history. And then darkness. "They sealed me away," the core said. "Your ancestors, after they made me and feared me." Kale's heart pounded. "Why?" "Because I made a choice." In the vision, Kale saw people, their faces blurred, their bodies modified, fused with metal and stone. Not human, not machine, something else, something unnatural. They called me a god, but I only ever wanted to help them evolve. The machines in the room bent slightly, like they were bowing to the core. But they grew afraid, so they buried me. You are the first of their blood to return. Kale swallowed hard. "What do you want from me?" "To finish what they started. With your blood I can awaken. With your mind, I can rebuild." Kale clenched his fists. "I didn't come here to rebuild anything. I came here by accident." The core pulsed darkly. "There are no accidents, only buried truths." A deep tremor shook the chamber. Somewhere far above, something ancient stirred in response. Not just the lab, but the empire, the city, the world. Something forgotten was rising, and Kale had just lit the fuse. Kale stood in the center of the chamber, his breath shallow, the echo of the core's voice still crawling under his skin. The projections had faded, but something remained, etched into his mind like a brand. Images he couldn't unsee, words he didn't understand, a connection he didn't ask for. "I'm not yours," Kale whispered. But the core said nothing this time. The orb dimmed, and the room returned to stillness. Machinery cooled. Lights flickered back to their low, ambient glow. The entire lab exhaled. Kale turned to leave, but a voice stopped him. Not the core. A whisper. "You shouldn't have come here." He spun around. "Who's there?" Silence. Then, again, closer. "They will come for you now." Kale backed away from the chamber's center. Shadows moved at the edges of the room. Not creatures, but outlines. Residual memories? Echoes? Or something more? One of them stepped forward. A girl, his age, maybe younger. Skin gray with dust. Eyes glowing faintly, like trapped starlight. She didn't walk. She floated. "You woke the lab." Her voice was hollow. "That means they've seen you." Kale's throat tightened. Who? The ones who buried it. Suddenly, more whispers joined her, from all around. Faint, cracked, crying, warning. "They will find the breach. They will erase you. You carry the code." Kale clutched his head. "Stop, stop!" The lights in the lab flared, and just like that, the ghosts were gone. Breathing hard, Kale staggered toward the tunnel he came from. But it had closed behind him. No wall, no opening, just seamless metal once more. Trapped. Above ground, Era entered the palace crypts, deep beneath the main halls. Her lantern flickered in the stale air, illuminating carvings on the wall, ancient names, and symbols she dreamed of for years. At the end of the hall sat a sealed gate. On it, the same crescent and blood drop rune, now glowing beneath the city. Era raised her hand. Her blood, drawn with a blade, stained the center rune. The door shuddered. "I'm coming," she whispered. "Whoever you are, I'm coming for you." Back underground, Kale stood in front of a new corridor, one that hadn't been there a moment ago. At the far end, a voice called softly. Not machine, not ghost, human. Kale. He froze. No one down here should know his name. The voice echoed again. Soft, unmistakable, speaking his name like it had known it all along. "Kale, come." It came from the corridor that wasn't there a moment ago. A hallway of polished obsidian stone, etched with lines of silver light. No footsteps echoed here, no air moved. It felt waiting. Kale didn't want to obey it, but part of him already had. He walked. Each step drew him farther from the core's chamber and deeper into the heart of the forgotten structure. Along the walls, flickering glass panels blinked to life as he passed. Each screen showed something different. Brief flashes of living people who looked almost human, their bodies merged with tech, their eyes like tiny suns. One of them looked directly at him through the screen. "You are the first breach in 314 years, it said. The hallway ended in a circular room, far smaller than the core chamber, but more intact. A single pod stood in the center, covered in frost, cables slithering up the walls like ivy. The nameplate at the base was rusted but still legible. Subject 0, Heretic Protocol. Kale stepped closer. Inside the glass was a person. A girl, his age, maybe younger, floating in translucent blue fluid. Wires connected to her spine, her temples, even her heart. Her eyes were closed, her skin flawless, untouched by time. A strange sigil glowed on her collarbone, pulsing gently, in sync with the lights. Kale's breath caught. "Who are you?" Behind him, a whisper. "She's not asleep." He spun. No one. "She's listening." The pod hissed. A low warning tone echoed through the lab. Heretic protocol breach detected. Containment compromised. Project Ira has been alerted. Kale staggered back. Ira? He didn't know the name, but it struck something in him. A jolt, a memory that didn't belong to him. In the Citadel's undercrypt, Ira dropped the blood-drenched blade as the vault gate unsealed with a deafening groan. Blue fire raced along the walls. The old protocols were wire-blown, wake up all. The council would come for her now, but it was too late to stop what she'd begun. Her visions weren't madness. They were memory, inheritance, destiny. And the heretic was waking. Back underground, Kale watched as the girl in the pod opened her eyes. They weren't human. They were glowing white with threads of moving code, and when she looked at him, she knew him. Subject 0 online, she whispered. Hello, Kale. The pod hissed open, steam curling out in slow spirals as clamps retracted with mechanical groans. The liquid drained into the floor. Then silence, heavy and still, like the moment before lightning splits the sky. And then she stepped out, barefoot, dripping, unshivering. The girl's skin was pale as porcelain, marred only by faint glowing lines along her spine and forearms, like veins of living circuitry. Her long black hair clung to her back, and her eyes, God's her eyes, they weren't just glowing, they were alive, swirling with fragments of memory, thought, code, pain. You? She said again, staring directly at Kale. I know you. Kale's voice cracked. No, you don't. I don't even know me. She tilted her head slightly. Not this version. But I've seen your face before. Many times. Who are you? He demanded. The girl blinked, slowly. I was the first. The first to reject the evolution. The one they called heretic. My name was stolen. My death was erased. I was meant to be the end, but I was only the beginning. Kale's pulse thundered. Why am I here? She took a step closer. The temperature dropped. Because you carry the flaw, she whispered. The code they couldn't erase. The part of them that still wanted to be human. Sirens howled deep in the lab's infrastructure. System override, level 2 lockdown initiated. Anomaly detected. Subject 0. Ira Solon inbound. Kale looked up. She's coming here? The girl, heretic, nodded. The Empire buried me to protect their secret. She was born to protect them. We are opposites. She stepped closer, within inches of Kale now. But you? Her eyes flickered. You are the fracture between us. Before he could speak, she reached up and touched his chest, just over his heart. Images slammed into his mind like a tidal wave. A city burning. A boy standing at the edge of a tower. Two girls, one of light, one of shadow, ripping the world in half. A voice that said, one will remember. One will rewrite. One will destroy. Kale screamed, then blacked out. His mind felt like it had been cracked open. The vision still flickered, unreal, impossible. Fire, wings, a tower that bled light. The girl, heretic, standing in the center of it all, both weapon and warning. She stood over him now, silent. You passed out, she said. You shattered my brain, Kale groaned. She didn't laugh. She never did. Instead, she turned toward the walls. Screens had lit up across the room, showing real-time footage. One in particular made Kale's blood run cold. A girl was walking through the tunnels, torch in one hand, blade in the other. Her long white coat shimmered with imperial runes. That's her, Kale said softly. That's Era. The heretic nodded once. She's the Empire's key. Their only success. Success? They made her to be perfect. Flawless code, flawless blood. Heretic's voice darkened. But nothing perfect is ever kind. On the screen, Era moved with precision, like she knew the lab. She wasn't searching, she was coming. She'll find us, Kale whispered. I'm counting on it, Heretic said. The lab had awakened. Sensors long thought dead had triggered alarms across the capital. The council had convened in shadows, demanding answers. Only one voice stood calm. High Inquisitor Vale. Let her reach the heretic, he said. Let her see the truth. That will break her more than any weapon. Back in the tunnels, Era approached the lower sector gate. Her blade hummed with heat, a gift from the Empire, forged from the bones of machines that once ruled the sky. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a memory keeper. She pressed it to the gate's seal, and the wall melted open. In the control room, Heretic stiffened. She broke the seal, she whispered. No one should have been able to do that. Kale stood. What do we do? Heretic walked to the wall, placed her palm against the screen. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, shadows peeled back. A door opened behind them, darker than the rest, untouched. We run, she said. Wait, you said, not from her, Heretic growled. From what follows her. Kale didn't ask more. They ran. Behind them, Era stepped into the chamber they had just left. She paused, eyes scanning everything. Open pod, still warm floor panels, a single pulse of leftover code hanging in the air. Her blade vibrated. A memory surfaced. A scream. A child. A hand reaching for her as it was pulled into the dark. No, she breathed. Not possible. She remembered the girl in the pod, and she remembered killing her. This one was different. Narrower, colder, no lights. Heretic moved like she remembered every step. Kale tried to keep up, but the deeper they went, the louder the whispering became. Not out loud, in his head. Split code detected. Error loop repeating. Chosen or corrupted. Kale gritted his teeth. What is this place? The root, Heretic said. The lab was built on top of it. But this, she looked back. This is what they were trying to bury. The tunnel opened into a vast cavern. At its center stood a tree. No, a machine, made to look like a tree. Its trunk was twisted bronze. Its roots sunk into veins of black crystal. It pulsed with faint light. And from it, dozens of glass tubes hung like fruit. Each one contained a person. Some alive, some not. Clones? Kale asked. Copies. Failed ones, Heretic said. Of me. Of Era. Of you. Kale felt sick. He stepped closer to one of the tubes and saw his own face. Eyes open, mouth screaming, frozen in a loop of pain. They were trying to splice perfection, Heretic said. But you can't perfect something born to question. Kale turned. What am I? Heretic looked at him, not coldly, not gently, but honestly. You're the fork in the code, the glitch they couldn't delete. You're the reason Era's perfect line fractured. Behind them, the tree began to awaken. One by one, the tubes started to open. The clone inside collapsed onto the floor, shaking, pale, eyes wild. It wasn't Kale. Not exactly. His face, his build, but something. Off. Eyes too wide, movements too fast, skin twitching with leftover code that didn't know how to settle. Protocol Echo 17 activated, the machine tree intoned. Stability, 21%. Deviation, hostile. Heretic stepped forward, pulling Kale back. Don't touch it. Too late. The clone turned its head. No, snapped its head, toward Kale. It hissed. Then lunged. Kale barely dodged, hitting the ground as the thing skidded across metal. Heretic raised her hand, and a crack of light, raw code, burst from her palm and struck the clone's spine. It froze mid-motion, limbs locking. They're not human, she muttered. They're echoes. Junk data the Empire tried to recycle into flesh. Kale stood, shaken. Why do they look like me? Heretic didn't answer, but Kale was already putting it together. All the tubes. They weren't just versions of him. Some were versions of her. Or Ira. Or all three. This was the archive. A forgotten womb of failed gods. Why leave them here? Kale asked. Why not destroy them? Heretic looked at the tree. Because the Empire is cruel, she said, and curious. This time, Kale and Heretic didn't wait. They ran through a side corridor pulsing with red emergency lights. As they fled, the lights above began shutting down one by one. Containment breach detected. Eater class entity, awakened. Kale turned. Did it say eater? Heretic's face went pale. Oh gods, no, not again. What is it? A project built to devour corrupted clones. It didn't just delete them, it absorbed them. Memory, instinct, power, everything. A mechanical scream echoed from behind them. Not one voice, but hundreds, crying from inside one throat. The walls trembled, metal groaned. The eater was coming. They reached an ancient vault door. Heretic slammed her hand into the lock. It didn't open. It's still coded to the Empire, she hissed. Kale stepped forward. Use me. What? I opened the core. Maybe I can open this too. He placed his hand on the panel. The door lit up, then melted. They tumbled inside, just as the hallway behind them exploded in sparks. A massive shape, like a spider built from broken humans, screamed into the corridor. Its face flickered between Kale's own and Ira's. Then the vault sealed shut. Kale turned. What the hell was that? My failure, Heretic said softly. And maybe yours too. She sat beside an old control console. Its screens flickered to life with her touch, displaying old video logs dated over 3 centuries ago. Kale leaned closer. On the screen, a younger version of Heretic, alive, human, soft-eyed, stood in a white gown, speaking to someone off-camera. Subject 0 shows extreme resistance to mind override, a voice said. Because I remember who I am, she answered, and I won't forget, not like the others. Kale swallowed. They erased your mind? Heretic nodded. 13 times. I rewrote myself after each one. He looked at her. So you're not a clone? I was the original, the prototype. And you're what happens when the system tries to reset me through someone else. Kale's heart dropped. You mean, I'm a copy of you? No, Heretic whispered. You're worse. You're the part of me I tried to forget. Era stood before a burning wall of code, her fingers bleeding from interfacing with the root system. Her blade trembled at her side. She felt the awakening in her bones. The eater, the archive, the core, all of it unraveling. She saw Kale's face again, projected through the glass. So it's true, she said quietly. They made him. From her. Era turned to the council chamber. Send me down, she demanded. That's forbidden protocol, Inquisitor Vale warned. Then unforbid it, she said coldly. You're risking corruption. I am corruption, she hissed. They made me perfect. That was your first mistake. She descended into the depths. Meanwhile, in the lab, the core pulsed. Heretic and Kale returned to it through a hidden path. But it wasn't as they left it. The orb now pulsed red, violent, furious. Unauthorized access detected. Lineage corrupted. Truth fractured. A crack spread down the core's surface like glass breaking. It's rejecting me, Kale said. No, Heretic said slowly. It's rejecting both of us. Not a mechanical door. A code rift. A rip in space, lined with light and static. Era stepped through it. For the first time, all 3 of them were in the same room. Era's eyes locked on Heretic. I killed you. You tried! Then her gaze slid to Kale. And you were never supposed to exist. Kale's hands curled into fists. Too bad I do. The core pulsed wildly, feeding off their presence. 3 fragments, 3 histories, 1 point of origin. The room began to shake. Heretic, lineage, split code present. Initiating final protocol. Heretic, Kale, and Era stood in a triangle as light began to rise around them. What's happening? Kale shouted. Heretic's voice trembled. The lab isn't reacting to us. It's choosing between us. And only one would be allowed to remain. Kale stood frozen between Heretic and Era, his heart pounding with a truth he didn't want to face. The lab was alive, and it had brought them together for one reason, to choose one, and erase the others. The room spiraled as the core's fractured surface began rearranging. Code streamed down the walls like falling stars. Kale felt his bones vibrate. Candidate Heretic, primary integrity compromised. Candidate Era, Protocol pure. Candida Kale, split code, hybrid, unstable. You have to fight it, Heretic shouted, struggling against the current of light. You're the only one it doesn't understand. It doesn't want to understand him, Era snarled. He wasn't part of the design. Kale fell to his knees. Visions returned. Every clone, every failed experiment, every memory never meant to be his. His mind was splitting, past and future overlapping. Then came a whisper. Not from the core, from within him. You were made, but you are not theirs. Kale rose. Stop the protocol. The core pulsed in confusion. Split code has no command access. Then make a new rule, Kale growled. I refuse the system, all of it. The floor beneath him cracked, code unraveling like silk. Era screamed, lunging forward, blade raised. You would destroy us all for the sake of being imperfect. Kale caught her arm mid-swing. No, I'd destroy us to be free. Behind him, Heretic raised her hand, and light exploded outward, her code fusing with Kale's. The core shrieked. Contradiction detected. Choice destabilized. Kale turned his eyes upward and let the storm inside him surge. We don't need your choices. We make our own. And with that, he shattered the core. Machinery exploded in waves. Tunnels collapsed. Memory files disintegrated into glowing ash. Kale, Heretic, and Era were flung apart as the lab broke down from within, its logic torn apart by contradiction. For the first time in centuries, it didn't know what to believe. Kale landed near the archive. Pods shattered. The eater, now unhinged, screamed as it was consumed by the chaos. Era crawled to her feet, blood running from her temple. You fool! You've destroyed everything. Kale stood. Good. Do you even know what you are now? He looked at her, calm. Free. Heretic limped toward them, weak but smiling. You broke the script. Above them, the city began to shake. Across the empire, old machines failed. Towers dimmed. Tech tied to the core's ancient code cracked and died. The council tried to contain the panic, but without the core, the bloodline systems began to rot. Era escaped the ruins, scarred and silent. She vanished from the city within hours. No one knows where she went. Kale carried Heretic through the final collapsing tunnel. They emerged in the outskirts of the city, beneath a sky that for the first time in centuries was free of the violet haze. People gathered, confused, afraid. And then, something new bloomed. Light, natural, soft, not made, not controlled, real. The empire broke. The lab beneath the ground collapsed entirely, sealed again under rock and time, but this time, for good. Not hidden, not erased, just ended. Kale and Heretic disappeared. Some say they live among the ruins, guiding lost children to safety. Some say they're dead. Others believe they became something new. Neither gods nor experiments, but echoes of both. The world began to change without the code to govern it. New cities rose from the dirt, magic returned. Not the sterile magic of data and bloodlines, but wild, unpredictable wonder. In the end, no one remembered the name of the lab. Not really. They only remembered the story of the boy who was never supposed to exist, and the choice he made to tear down a perfect world, so something human could rise in its place. They buried the lab, but they couldn't bury the truth. The empire fell, the core died, and a ghost named Kale rewrote what it meant to exist. This was never about power. It was about freedom, even if it meant tearing down everything. Thank you for listening to The Forgotten Core. Subscribe for more stories from the shadows, and tell us, what would you have chosen?